Okay. I got my coffee ready to go.
Got the coffee, got everything. Okay. I just saw a keyboard laying up against the wall. I thought maybe that you'd put it away or something. So
yeah, that thing, Kurzweil sent that to me out of the blue. And they're like, can you, do a review of it? Well, they sent it to me out of the blue. And then like 8 months later, some guy goes, hey, can you do a video review of it? It was weird. I haven't done it yet.
that might be, yeah, that's kind of weird when it's sort of thrown at you like that. You don't know, but that's kind of nice.
Nice surprise. Like this gigantic box just showed up in the hallway. And I'm like, what is this thing? I had played it there. Like I played at the NAMM show, their booth at the NAMM show. In fact, that's one of the two last times I played live since March. I mean, like live in front of a crowd,
What year was that you did that?
Obviously, 2020, like last year.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Right before the pandemic, that last.
Oh, okay.
NAMM
so you
show.
got a hold of just squeaked in there.
Yeah, we all got the NAMthrax, and then we,
Yeah.
we were all speculating that it might have been the COVID,
That's
Anyway.
That's where I am. I'm in Anaheim, so I'm pretty close to the NAMM show. So,
Right.
yeah, and I haven't gotten down there in a while. I thought maybe they were trying to do it virtually, which is not at all the way you want to do the NAMM show.
No,
you want to go down there and actually walk around and meet people and play and shake hands and yeah.
You can hear that, all right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's a little overmodulated. Is it?
It's an electroacoustic piano. It's a real piano, but it's got a pickup, like no soundboard. It's got a pickup instead.
Oh, okay. Do a sound check. It sounded a little distorted, like it was a little too loud. Yeah. Yeah, it's coming through too loud, but I can hear the notes. Yeah.
Oh, all right. Too loud is my style.
You almost can't perform any other way, I think. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's good. Now, see, from that bass line, you could probably hit it harder.
Okay, that's good enough.
Thank you. I appreciate that. That'll get me in the mood here. So let me do the intro for the show and we'll just get to talking. Okay, let me get into it. And a 1 and a 2 and a 1, 2, 3, 4. How you doing, everybody? My name is Dean Olson. I am a songwriter, radio host, and producer from Orange County, California. And I'm really just an average guy who loves to make music. However, when I get behind this microphone, I become the StrongWriter on the radio, helping songwriters and artists keep musically fit. Now, how do I like to do that? Well, through faith and hope and encouragement, and by taking in the stories and experiences told to me by wonderful guests, and by learning from the best in the business and passing it along to you. And now it's another beautiful day for a fantastic show, and I want to welcome you to it. Now, lately I've been listening to some great music that my friends and my guests have been creating, and there is one in particular that I'm listening to, and it's played a few gorgeous chords on my heartstrings. It's some really great music, and it's from today's guest. The man you're seeing on the screen with me is Bob Malone. He is a songwriter, performer, composer, and a musician who has been dubbed the keyboard wizard. Maybe he'll explain that because he's been called that a lot, and he lives up to that handle if you listen to his music. He is great, and he's got some live performances that I've seen on video. Great album. It drops on May 21st. It's called Good People, and here's a good man right here, Bob Malone.
How are you? That was very energetic.
Thank you. Okay.
Yeah. I'm all hyped up now.
Good. I was hoping that would be the case, because then if you're hyped up, I can try to live up to that. You have a lot of energy as far as I've seen as a live performer. But as we were discussing before we came on here, Bob, when the pandemic started, it started to a lot of people doing virtual shows, and it's just not the same, in my opinion. But some people can do it, some people can't. But you have quite an energetic performing style, and crowds really go for you on the piano up there. And how's it been now that this like last March, how this all kind of came apart?
It's been weird. Like I've been on the road pretty much since I was 18 or whatever, you know.
Really?
What I mean? Like I haven't not played for this long ever. Yeah, I mean, since I was a kid, you know.
Yeah.
So, but I've been doing online shows, you know, like in 2020, I did one every week starting the week after the shutdown. Every Tuesday was my show.
Right.
Now I'm doing them more sporadically, but I'm still doing them, you know, a couple a month usually. And, you know, I'm lucky. I have a decent following that comes out and pays to see it. And it's brought in some money, and I've gotten to play. You know, they comment and tip while I'm playing and stuff like that. You know,
I bet it's great. You know, a lot of people I've talked to, similar story.
I mean, you know, it's not. I mean, it's not like playing in front of an audience, but it's better than not doing it. You know, I mean, it's been very satisfying. Like every time I do it, I feel a million times better than the day before when I didn't do it.
Exactly.
You know?
I was going to ask you. Yeah. Once
that's
it's
the thing about it. Like, yeah, it's not the same, but it's something. You know?
Yeah. But if you're getting the love from the friends and the fans and the people commenting,
with the fans and keep them and you get, because you just need, you know, like I equate the desperate need to, like, I need to play live, you know, and I kind of equate that with kind of a mental illness. Like I need the approval of lots of strangers that, you know, I've never met, more than I need the approval of people that I love, you know, and know already. You know?
Yeah,
it's like a weird thing. I need that validation.
It's an interesting condition. I know that
crowds of people. Yeah, it's a thing. Some people. I mean, I know musicians that have they don't care about playing live. You know, they do studio work, and I love doing studio work, but I need to play live.
Yeah. So how'd you get started? When you said age 18, had you started before that? I mean,
since I was 16, I had my first band and I played on the weekends, right? You know, and then I went to Berklee College of Music and I played pretty much for a living during the time I was at school.
Okay.
And I had a band and we like tour New England for 3 days in a weekend and come back, you know, go to school. And then after school was over, I was just on the road from the age of 20, 21 or whatever it was.
Oh, okay.
And that, you know, that's been my life ever since.
Did you go to that when you say tour in New England? So you went to that Berklee up there?
Yeah, the Boston Berklee. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Not
the music school.
A good school, but you gotta shell out some money. Did you like do all those gigs to pay for it or something?
I just, you know, I mean, my parents put me through college. You know, they were like, we don't care what you go. They were worried I was going to music school. You know, they were like, they weren't musicians. They didn't know people who were musicians. But when I was in high school and playing every weekend and picking up a couple of $100 from that, they saw that, oh, you can actually make some money doing this. So we're not as frightened, you know? So
yeah.
Then they were like, we don't care what you go to school for, as long as you go to college and get a degree in something. So I got my music degree, you know. But yeah, I played.
Parents are funny people, you know. They want to care. They care. Yeah.
But I played, you know, while I was in school. I played every night, and I made enough money to pay for my apartment, you know.
Yeah,
stuff like that.
That's how it normally goes. Yeah. Did you ever have to? Did you have to hold down a job for a little bit while you were playing?
I had one brush with a day job right after I got out of college, and I was still playing every night. I was making enough money to live as a musician, and I got this idea in my head that if I also did this job during the day, I'd like have all this money. You know, so I was driving like a delivery van. So I would get up at 6 in the morning or 5 in the morning, something ridiculous. Like I had a gig every night that went till 2 at this bar, right? And I would go home. I'm like 20, so I can handle it. You know, I could go home and I get my 3 hours of sleep or whatever, and I'd go out to Logan Airport with my van and pick up packages and deliver these packages all day, and then get home and then go right to my gig. And that was my life for the, I don't know, 3 or 4 months that I did this job.
Okay.
And then one day I went out during a snowstorm and I totaled the van.
Oh no.
That was it. I was like, I didn't even bother to go in there to see if I was fired or not. I just never showed up again. And I never worked another day job after that. I just played music. But I've been lucky. I've played for a living pretty much my whole life,
Yeah.
So yeah, can't beat that.
You got to work that much harder, but you have a good time doing it
yeah, it is really hard work. There's a lot to it. So, but I didn't mind.
As long as you get the satisfaction of doing what you love, and this is what you wanted to do with your life. So
yeah,
that's kind of weird, isn't it? the kind of life that you have.
Yeah, I don't think of it as weird because I've never done anything else. Yeah, but I encounter people. Now I play with John Fogerty and I play big places and I have my solo career and I tour and all of it looks, like I meet people and they're very excited about my life. They're like, wow, you live in the dream. And I just don't think of it that way. It's just my job. I like it. It's hard to explain.
Yeah, it is. But yeah, because what we get to see now.
I basically don't have, the only thing I have to compare it to is back when I was playing like bar gigs 4 hours a night, and like, I'm like, oh, I don't have to do that anymore. But that was still playing music for a living. So, even that is a thing that not a lot of people can attain. So, kind of spoiled in a way that I don't have, I didn't have some terrible long job that I had to do anyway,
Yeah. Well, the bar gigs are a necessary part. And if you have that,
I did all that. Those things were great they made me a great performer. So when I started to just do my own, like when I started the tour, just doing my own songs and playing places where they came to hear you play and all that, I was really set up to put on a great show in that situation because that was an audience, that was easy, right? That was an audience of what, like I had come up facing hostile audiences that I had to win over. So by the time I got to real music people that wanted my songs and all that, that was a piece of cake, and I could really put on the best show for people like that.
I love it. I love how you did that. I love how you talked about, the people that come to see you play and then you play hostile crowds sometimes. It's funny you bring that up because lately a few of my guests have been bringing up that same topic, and it's kind of interesting. It's not something I discuss all the time, but it is interesting that there's almost different levels that you get to. There's
oh yeah,
playing background music, or you're playing to a crowd that really isn't. You're kind of interrupting their day. They didn't come
I did a lot of gigs opening for people, famous people, and no, they never want to see the opening act. And so you have like one song to win them over. So I would just like put out that energy and right at the beginning, and by the set, I almost never fail to win them over. And then they're really into it because they were expecting to have to sit through 45 minutes of something that sucked.
Yeah.
So if it was even halfway decent, they were really excited that they didn't have to sit through something that sucked. And all of a sudden they're like, we're fine with you. Now we want to see you, so that also was great training to be a good person on stage, a good entertainer, or what have you.
Yeah, that's good. Then you got to really, you have a good attitude to go through it like that, because that's it's scary to be an opening act, especially if they have no idea who you are.
That's how I got her. That's how I was able to headline places later. I opened, I did tons of that so that people could hear me. It's the only way.
Just the thought of knowing that, listen, somebody like John Fogerty picked you. Well, John Fogerty is somebody you played with, but for instance, who's one act that you opened for that you were really excited about?
Oh, I don't know. I've opened for Dr. John and Leon Russell.
Wow.
Boz Scaggs. I did a tour opening for the Neville Brothers. All of those excited me. They were all people I loved already.
Great names. Yeah, that's good. A couple of them gone now, but it's nice but knowing that somehow they picked you to be the opening act, so that gives they put their endorsement on you almost, by having you there.
Yeah. it's nice, but you know, basically the real relationship is between you and the crowd.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. You're
to
kind
make
of,
them love you.
yeah. Hey, listen, we invited you. We put you up there. We stand behind you, but you're on your own, that kind of thing.
Yeah. There's not much they can do, you know?
So, when did that start happening for you? Did the little bar gigs and everything like that? Did you always have some kind of way to sort of kick it into gear and get the crowd going, or did this gradually happen? Like when you started?
Back in the day, like I just learned on stage like anybody else,
Yeah.
Like by the time I was 23, I was a grizzled veteran of bars. You know what I mean? And around the mid 90s is when I really burnt out, and I decided I'm just going to do my own songs, and I'm going to be an artist, and I'm either going to stand up or fail doing that. But I can't. I'm not going to do, your bar mitzvah or your cover, request gig anymore. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, there's nothing wrong with being a working musician. I was pretty young, and I was really burnt out on that. I was like, I don't want to be this guy. I remember I was on a gig with these dudes. I was probably 25 and they were all in their 40s. It was some wedding gig or something, some miserable. And they were just so cynical and angry and beat down. And they were really good players, and they played badly on purpose because they hated the gig. And I was like, I do not want to turn into this person, even if it means I don't play anymore.
Yeah.
So that was when I got out of that whole, that side of the business,
Yeah. But you consciously,
I'm just going to do my stuff, and it's either going to work or it's not going to work, but it worked.
Yeah. But you consciously looked at those guys and said that to yourself, probably, huh?
It was kind of a moment for me, because it was so sad. I'm like, oh, man, I don't want to turn into these. They were all bitter. They didn't have more gigs that they hated. You know what I mean? Like They were complaining about some other people who were getting more miserable wedding gigs that they didn't really want to do anyway.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, what kind of life is this? Anyway,
they were trying. Yeah. But it sounds like that, just the way you describe, those early days and, and what you're doing now, it sounds like you got a good head on your shoulders and a good attitude, even if the times are kind of crummy and crappy, you can still
I've been pretty lucky through this whole thing.
Have you?
Yeah, I've made money doing my online show. A lot of people haven't been able to do that. I got royalty checks that come in.
Yeah.
Well,
that's now, but I'm
married, you're talking about like just I'm talking about the pandemic.
Yeah. Well, now that's another story too. Yeah, sure. That did the bottom sort of fall out, and then you had to say, oh, we got to change gears here a little bit, and let's see what we can do now that I'm not going to be performing in clubs and then on stages anymore.
Oh, back when I started to I really pursued touring and being an opening act. Like I had built this whole email. This is like kind of mid to late 90s when people were just starting to it was also for a minute there, email allowed you to get a hold of people that used to be totally inaccessible. You could. So I carefully constructed this email in which I sold myself in a short period. I had to I didn't have to scroll to look at the whole thing, right?
Yeah.
And I would look at the schedules of these legit kind of rooms that I really wanted to play, where people listened to you, and I would see who was playing, and I would kind of build a tour around who I was good as an opener for. I just check their schedule. And so I'd write to the venue and I'd pitch myself to open for specific dates with specific artists. And that was helpful because usually they had to find an act to open and they didn't really want to have to deal with it. So here I come, and I could do a really good show by myself. So nobody had to move any gear.
Yeah.
So that's how I ended up just doing, 200 days a year on the road as an unknown singer, songwriter, blues guy, whatever I was, opening for people. That's kind of how it all started when I quit doing the bar gigs.
That's an incredible schedule.
And they just, I just stayed out. I just drove back and forth across the country in a van, and took every gig I could get. I worked, didn't make much money. A lot of those things didn't even pay. Like if I put on a really good show, I sold a lot of CDs, and then I could afford to not sleep in my van basically. And that was my income, So that's how I started. Yeah, it was almost like starting from scratch, but not quite. The gigs were so much better than what I had been doing. And even during the time I was playing bars, I was also doing stuff like that, but just not as much of it and not exclusively. It's different when the thing is, you do this kind of gigs, they can tell you do those kind of gigs, even if you aren't doing it at the moment. I don't know, there's something different about, I mean, if the thing about being an artist is you have to be something, or try at least to be something unlike anything else.
Yeah, something has to be something interesting about you.
You have to, you have to be a commodity. Like, what's the point of you, right? When you go play covers of Margaritaville or whatever, like you're just, the songs are the commodity and you're just the vehicle for that. And you don't have to be really unique in any way. So that's where those two worlds really diverged. And I had to just find my voice and be unique. And the only way to do that was to not do the other kind of stuff. It's interesting. I haven't talked about this stuff in years, but
no, that's fine. That's why I'm here. I like to hear these things.
It's an exploration of my early days.
Yeah. So I missed you around town. I didn't know where you were. So I could have seen you. I'm not going to say when you sucked, but when things were not when you were way unknown. But now you've. I'd
say by '93, I had a good following doing my own shit.
That's
in LA.
Great.
And I was still doing bar gigs, and I was also doing kind of showcasing gigs. And then over the next couple of years, I transitioned out of that.
Yeah, 93.
That was about the time I started to change everything.
Yeah.
So by 96, 97, I barely played LA anymore. I just was on the road all the time,
That's a great thing. Yeah.
Can't believe how long ago the 90s were.
Yeah.
I have a 25-year-old background singer in my band, and she was born in 97, again, 96 or whatever. Like, how is it possible that you were born then,
What's weird is when you see that when their birth year, you see it has a 2 in front of it. So it's like now they're in the 2000s.
Oh, yeah. And people in their 30s went to high school in the early 2000s,
Yeah. Yeah. I got
and
30.
In their 30s. They're not 20 something. And you could say, oh, you're so young. Not that being in your 30s is that old. I'd love to be that old again.
Yeah, I got a 30-year-old daughter, and she's doing all that, so she looks.
I remember turning 30, though. Do you remember turning 30? And thinking,
it was
the end of the world?
I don't know if it was the end of the world, but it certainly was a different thing because everybody told you it was going to be different. Everything changes because now you're no longer. Now you really got to grow up and do something. That kind of thing. I was just
in Hollywood years, I'm 60 already.
Well, it used to bug me because they say at 35, that's when you should be, you should have your what together because I was going to be a millionaire at 35, or I was going to at least have this going for me. And
I was 100 error at 30.
I made so many errors, and I go, I didn't get what I was supposed to do at 35, but that seems so long ago now. So,
I turned 35 in December of 2000.
2000. That was the big thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And I opened for Al Green at House of Blues for New Year's Eve.
Really? Nice.
Yeah, that was a pretty good year.
Oh yeah.
I wasn't rich though by any stretch, but
which House of Blues down here somewhere?
The one here in Hollywood, yeah.
The Hollywood one, yeah. And that's gone now. Yeah.
That was a perfect example of having to win over a hostile opening act crowd.
Really?
I was playing solo, and it was New Year's 2000. People had paid lots of money to go to the show. It was sold out, of course, and so they had a DJ playing disco shit, and everyone's dancing, and everyone's already drunk and whatever. and they just shut it off mid-song. Ladies and gentlemen, Bob Malone. I walk out there by myself, and I'm going to play the piano, and everyone's pissed. They're mad. They're like, fuck. Oh, sorry. I don't know if I can.
That's all right. No, so go ahead. Yeah.
They're like, fuck this guy. He's playing by and So I just started ripping as hard as I possibly could. And like everyone in the front had their backs to me and they start slowly turning around and they're like, yeah, okay. And then by the end of the first song, I had them and this was not a set where I was going to break out any ballads. I just kept the energy level like insanely high for the whole thing. And I did my 45 minutes or whatever, and they all loved it. And I come off and the monitor guy's like, you are a brave man. So, I'm like, well, I didn't have much of a choice really.
Yeah. If you're going to survive out there, you pulled out.
That was one of the scariest ones.
Oh, it sounds like it. Yeah. Because who knows what they were. Maybe they were just there to party.
Well, they were there to hear Al Green, and it was their thing.
Al Green.
They were not there to hear some dude play and sing and play the piano by himself. They thought it was just going to be, visually, they thought it was, they saw just me by my, what they thought it was going to be and what it turned out to be were two different things. But, at first,
maybe you were Al Green's piano player and they were,
they were just
he's coming up,
Yeah, who knows?
Yeah, that's a crazy place.
Even backstage. That was the other funny thing. He came in like 5 minutes before showtime with his entourage, so I could saw the top of his head. And they walked him right down to the stage. He did 45 minutes, no encore, and they walked him back out. And he was back in the van and out of there. And that was it. That was the show. Oh, and everyone's standing there going, when's the encore? I'm like, I don't think there's going to be one.
Not going to be one.
The building.
Oh, that's great.
But he was amazing,
Yeah. Wow.
Anyway, that was my 35th birthday.
Not a bad one to have. I mean, you had a story to come out of it. Yeah, you could at least. It sounds like it sounds tense and frustrating, and at the same time, it's an exciting thing.
It was frightening, but at that point in my life, I had all the tools necessary to make that particular situation work. Had I done it 10 years before, I think I would have been eaten alive by that crowd. A lot of playing live is crowd control. Like you have to own the room. They know when you're not owning them. You might be playing great. It has nothing to do with that. It has everything to do with you are in charge of the room. And people, if you know how to be in charge of the room, the crowd accepts that. They want that. They want to be led. They want you to take them on their journey, and if you're not in charge, you lose them. I see people all the time that don't know how to perform. They know how to sing and play and they sound great, but they can't hold a crowd, It's a whole different skill set.
Maybe there's distraction, if you hear those people yelling at you or
it's hard. Yeah. I get distracted by noise and,
I do. Yeah. That would,
I've had situations where I remember I played this really big festival and I went out there. I was like, I'm doing a big festival. It's going to be great. And I come out and the sound just went down. Like everything went down. Like the mic was still live, but the piano was off and, everything was. So I just told jokes for about 15 minutes. It was either panic, fly into a rage or get angry or lose the crowd or just make it funny so I made it funny. And by the time they got everything set and turned back on, those people were ready to love my show. It was easy after that because
that's great.
We got to know each other, so to speak.
Yeah, so there is some brave moments in your career.
If you're not brave, you're not going to get anywhere.
You were your own warm-up act for the crowd.
Not that I wasn't terrified during all of these things. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
Like all these things, all these kind of situations were absolutely terrifying to me, but either you power through and you step up to the plate and do it, or you don't, and not doing it. If you want to have a career and you want to play, you have to work through fear. I'm sure everyone I've met who's completely free of fear is usually somebody who's not very good. They don't understand where they, I just compare myself to people that are great and I'll never be as good as them. And that keeps me, that keeps some healthy fear in me, And I just, it's like the best players I've met that are famous and they're really they've succeeded on a level where they really they still are, they worry, they care, they want to do a good show, they get a little nervous before the gig, you know what I mean? Like it's all built in,
Yeah. I always thought this was a bad phrase, a dumb phrase, that what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. But it sounds like in your case, all these little incidents, it seems like that you learn a little bit of it. You gain some experience and some resolve, and you get some nerves of steel, even though you say you get terrified at new gigs.
It's weird. I like every night now, every time I play, even when I do my show at home where there's no audience, but they're out there, but I can't see them. I go through a whole day of imposter syndrome and worry, and my little voice is like, who are you to get on stage? Nobody cares. You're off. You're a pretender. You're terrible. You're awful. And, and then the minute I start playing, it all goes away, and it's just the most enjoyable experience to play.
Yeah.
But I go through that every night. Like, why do I have to go through that every night at this point in my life? I know what I'm going to do. I know I know how it's going to be, it's just all part of it's all just built in now.
It's a strange thing your brain goes through, but at the same time, your brain knows that, as long as you can get through that, and then once you get started and get the ball rolling,
it all goes away.
It's like, it goes away.
It's like a switch has been flipped, and now I'm Super Bob, who in front of, on stage, and I know exactly what to do. So anyway,
that's great. No, I appreciate that a lot. Believe me, that's the kind of stuff I want to hear, and other people can relate to you in some way, knowing that, hey, listen, we all go through this. Some people don't. Every once in a while, I'll listen to people say, oh, I've never had that problem.
They're lying.
Go flipping the switch. How nice for you that you don't go through this torture that you put yourself through before the day before or something. But it happens. That's why I always said that, during the pandemic, I can feel for the ones that this is their life, performing, and this is all they want to do. This is all they know. And then to do it in a virtual setting or to try something else, it's just not the same. It's not what they want. So they go through a little panic, a little bit of disgust that this is not what I wanted. When can we get back to doing the live stuff on the stage?
Yeah, I know. Yeah. I just kind of accepted it because what else was there to do? It was pretty depressing. I spent a lot of time just on the couch in despair, just because the life as I knew it had just suddenly been ripped away. And, I was used to traveling and I did a lot of stuff. I would scroll through the pictures on my phone. 2018, I'm in China and I'm in Italy, and I'm on the road. And in 2019, I got all these cool gigs, and oh my God. And then 2020, it's just the same picture over and over again of me at home, or if I even bother, usually of the cats,
Well, this has been real nice. I appreciate that. Maybe I should move on from all this, but this is really what the show is. This is the meat of the show. What we're talking about right now. It might sound like we're just sort of rambling on, but this is really what the show's about. And then secondary is what you're doing right now. You got an album that's coming out next month.
Yeah.
Is it your first, or have you been doing other albums already?
Oh, that's my 10th album.
Oh, you got a discography going there. I didn't.
Well, yeah, that's how I did all these gigs, playing my own tunes and selling CDs.
Yeah.
I had product.
See how quick I am? Jeez, I should have thought of that.
You'll catch up.
Yeah, really. Well, that's
it's my 10th CD, and
it sounds great. Is this the type of? Is it just like your style of music, or is this brand new stuff that you're doing now?
No, it's a little bit of a departure from the other stuff I've done. Is like probably a little bit more rootsy than this. But no, it's not really. I don't think anyone who has been following me all along will be surprised. There's a few more kind of very confessional ballady type stuff on it, that I've always done stuff like that, but there's just more of it on this. And I don't know. I try to make every one of them different.
Well, as I said in the intro to the show here, that you got me. That was it was just the right mix of rock and piano, and I miss.
I like it. I'm pretty happy with it. everyone thinks their latest record's their best one, but I really think it's my best one.
No,
I thought my last one was my best one. That's
no,
because
I didn't know I was longing for
yet.
this. I didn't know I was longing for this style of music, but you got a nice blend.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I've been very hard to classify through the years. Nobody really knows what to call it because
yeah. Well, even track to track, each one sounds a little bit like, this is a little bit sounds a little bit like this one.
I like a lot of stuff, and it all comes through. I just tried to mix it up. I never really. I got frustrated with the idea of genres in general. It's like, why do I have to be just one thing?
Yeah.
I mean, I get that makes it easier to sell, but as long as you sound like yourself through whatever genre excursion you're going through, then you're fine. It all holds together.
Yeah.
Like these tunes are different stylistically, but they all hold together because I play the way I play and I sing the way I sing and I write the way I write, and it all just kind of, it gels. I think people like that,
When did you learn to play your instrument? Was it when you got to the school or way before that?
Oh, I mean, when I was 9, I started taking classical piano lessons and all that sort of thing. When I was 14, I was corrupted by rock and roll. I went to Berkeley and I was playing then. And so, yeah, I started young. And when I was really young, I really had no pop culture knowledge whatsoever till I was about 14 or 15. I wanted to be a classical musician. And I listened to almost nothing but that and fusion. I was really into Return to Forever and Weather Report and Beethoven, and
now we're talking.
And Stravinsky and all that. And I didn't know any songs that were popular, right? And then I discovered all that when I was about 14, And then I at that point I was like, I really want to write songs, I really want to communicate on that level. And that became a thing for me. But I mean, all of that mattered, and then when I moved to LA in 1990, that's when I really hardcore got in love with New Orleans music and blues music and all that kind of root stuff that then became a big part of what I do, that got added to all the other stuff. So by then my whole palette was kind of set,
well-rounded, so that
I mean, it's all in there. It's just all kind of mixed together.
You say New Orleans, you got I'm reading now, so people know that this is an unscripted show, but look what I got here. I get talking points for Bob Malone.
Did they give you some nice stuff?
Yeah this you wouldn't believe what Bob has been doing or has done. Says you shared the stage with bunch of people, but Alan Toussaint is the one I saw that was.
Oh yeah, Alan Toussaint. Well, I played Jazz Fest with John Fogerty, and Alan Toussaint played with us. And I also played a benefit show that we were on, and also I played piano night twice in New Orleans, which is a WWOZ, which is the station there.
Really? Okay.
Kind of famous for that kind of music. They put on a show during Jazz Fest every year. And I've been on that a couple of times, and he was on that. Yeah, I remember I met him.
You need to look over and see him doing this thing.
Oh man, they used to, wherever the gig was, they would block off a spot right in front of the venue. So when he pulled up his Rolls Royce, he had this Rolls Royce Silver Ghost I think it was from the 70s, right? It's just really cool. His custom license plate, and he'd pull up, and he looked great. I mean, he was just a legend, and such a great musician and songwriter. And on this gig, he's playing piano and I'm playing organ, and I'm like, I can't believe this is happening.
Yeah, it's a shame we're losing some of those staples of the. You got Alan and Dr. John is gone now, and but you still got the Nevilles, right? They're hanging around there, still doing stuff, and
but they're old,
I know what you're saying, but
I mean, so many of my heroes.
You get scared because they're going, they're dropping like
heroes
crazy.
Were 20 years older than me or whatever when I was young, so now I'm in my 50s and they're in their 70s, and so it's or even their 80s, some of them. So
It is weird that, but
you have to get ready for it,
it started happening like around about 2015, 16, all these icons, Prince died, David Bowie dies.
And Prince, he was like way too young,
Yeah. And I think I get it a little bit. People were crying constantly on social media. It's like, okay, well, get over it. They were my heroes too, but come on. But I think I see it from their point of view, because you know what? Who's replacing these greats? I'm not seeing a lot of people in the new guard coming forward.
I mean, it's just different,
Yeah, it's a different.
Like I hear new stuff that I think is cool, and but,
I do too.
I'm not their target audience. It's kind of like there's a lot of new stuff that sounds to me probably like, and to you probably like what you liked sounded like to your parents.
Yeah, I think so.
I mean,
I have a perspective on that, but it's
hard to say.
Weird. It just seems
hard to say who it's going to be. And music means a different thing now than, like people, we came up kind of at the end of an era, that, the whole like baby boomer era, from the 60s through the 80s or whatever, like music had rock and roll and music had a bigger meaning than just pop music. Before that, pop music was just pop music. You played if you were really popular, you played a theater. And so now you have, that generation was the biggest one ever. And they latched on to certain acts, and those acts ended up being able to fill up stadiums. And the whole thing meant it was bigger. It was almost kind of like a blip, it was huge in a way that you will never see again, because things are more fragmented now. Like there's a lot of really cool people out there that you're not going to hear on the radio, but they have a following. They can play a theater, but they won't get latched onto by like a whole generation, because this is not like that anymore. There's too many choices and there's too much fragmentation.
Yeah.
So it was a time, that I think is not going to happen in the same way ever again, because everything.
I think that might be the thing that makes you feel old, is that all the fragmentation, because when I was growing up, it was all, when I grew up going down to a record store, getting, the latest thing that I thought it was going to be great. And then, graduated to cassettes and CDs, et cetera. And all those things that you heard on radio was, there were only a certain number of charts that Billboard had. You had an R&B, you had a rock, you had albums, adult contemporary, so you could hear some of the older people's music, or more.
Right. Now there's like a fire hose of stuff.
Yeah. And it all comes out and you don't know what to put.
No, that's the thing. It's much harder.
Well, when my kids were in school, so they were coming up with all this emo and it sounds like alternative music. Oh no, there were like 14 different classifications for that.
That's right. There's a lot of like little subgenres now.
Yeah. So I just sort of gave up on figuring out what it is. Sometimes I got to come to terms with the fact that I can't get with it these days with the music. I only like what I hear, and when I hear something cool lately, I go, hey, I'll.
I just like what I like,
Yeah.
And I'm not concerned with being. Like at a certain point in your life, you're not going to be with it. You know what I mean? It moves too fast in ways that you don't even understand, and you just have to stop. Kids are getting their music from different sources than we got them. Like it was hard in the 80s. I was really when I was a teenager, and I was really into a lot of music from the 60s and 70s that was actually hard. It was really popular, but I never heard on the radio. It was hard to find. Like if I wanted to, I wanted a Paul Simon record from 1973. Like that's not what the kids in my school liked, I had to go find that stuff. Now it's just anybody can find that stuff. I meet actually young people that know a lot more about older music than we knew, because they have it all. They grew up with everything. They have it all at their disposal. So they get exposed. Like if it was off the radio in our day, it was off the radio. You weren't hearing classic rock was not a format yet. That happened.
Yeah, you didn't call it that, of course.
Right. And it wasn't even like they were just like they were playing the new thing, and it was a little later that they started. Anyway.
It was. I'm telling you. it's going on today that you almost have to reverse engineer pop culture or those songs, because kids have reference to they know a lot of the songs I grew up with because it was in a movie or it was in a commercial,
right? Exactly.
or it became part of
and that's how I heard older music too. Like
well, you remember how movies
I discovered Ray Charles and Aretha Franklin and all these people that became some of my most favorite artists through the Blues Brothers movie.
Yes,
right?
there you go.
You weren't hearing that stuff on the radio in 1981. I was not exposed to that kind of music at all. And I heard him in that movie. I was like, what is this magnificent stuff? And then I went out and learned all about it. And that those guys were singing a lot of like Sam and Dave tunes, right? And I discovered I didn't hear Sam and Dave on the radio. I had to go find all that stuff.
That's very true. And it was it didn't start really hitting the road, or the rubber started meeting the road when you had movies like, The Big Chill had all those old 60s Motown and
that's right.
things like that. There were soundtracks, and then it just started to pick up from there. There were more and more movies that had like soundtracks with lots of different artists from the older days, the 60s, So it was all a big revival, and then it would just keep on playing out. And that's how I would, even though a lot of it would annoy me, it was like, okay, enough with that era.
Yeah, I know. That was the people that were 10 or 15 years older than us were just starting to just about go into middle age, not quite yet, but they were approaching it and starting to get nostalgic,
Yeah, there's always a nostalgia, 20 to 30
And we were
years.
like, we don't want to hear about the 60s, man.
And that's
stop talking about how great the 60s were.
Well, they would say, don't stop talking about the 80s or something like that's what they tell me.
Now
or the 90s.
Now the 80s is 40 years ago, 35 years
exactly.
ago.
So, but it is funny because we're going to have 80s night, and they have them dressed like, that's not the way we dressed in the 80s. What are you doing with those goofy?
My wife was at something with all these coworkers of hers who were all in their 20s. And it was like 80s night. And we're like, oh, yeah, we're getting up, dressed up. And we're going to go dance to 80s music. And she goes, I danced to 80s music in the 80s, bitches.
That's true. Probably the same way I felt about when they did all those 50s, shows, like Happy Days, etc. Because my parents would show me what they looked like back then. I didn't see them. Right. My dad was not dressed up like a greaser, and my mom didn't look like she had.
1955 was 30 years ago. So it's the same now.
I think that's why Back to the Future, I related it to so much, because I get it. I understand what you're doing.
Yeah.
You thought 55 was that way, but this is what it really was like, So anyway, enough of that. Okay. Back to your album.
Right. Well, we've too many tangents for my album to survive this thing.
Before I got to actually listen to this whole album, this is all I got to hear is Good People. And I said, I'm in already. That sounds great. And you had a nice video. And real stupid question. What's this all about? What's the song all about? Maybe you can explain that.
Well, the song is about, my wife is a very empathetic person, and she gets very upset when bad things happen, to other people, and I can't even remember what event had just destroyed her. And, she was just depressed for a whole week. It was probably one of those shootings, that there were so many of. So
she's empathetic in the true sense of the word?
Yeah, and she became a public defender to help people and help poor people. And she's a great singer-songwriter. She could have done anything she wanted, but what she chose to do was help other people.
Nice.
And
very nice.
And it's about her mostly, but it's also about all of us. The people who are the worst and have the most kind of evil message seem to be the loudest people. So you just kind of think everything sucks. Everybody's awful. All I hear are these awful people saying these awful things. But really, most people are really wonderful. Most people are good, and most people want to be good. And I see it, I travel the world, I travel the country, and everywhere I go, I just meet really kind, nice people. You may not think about it in those terms if you don't travel a lot, and I just see everywhere I go. And so that's what the song is about, basically, how she gets down because she sees all these terrible things, and then the reminder is that there's good people everywhere.
So in a way,
this really are.
in a way.
It
This
came
is
out
you
right.
singing.
It's a very uncynical song. You know, it's a very kind of universal type song that, you know, it's among, there's a bunch of songs like that that everyone loves the most by me. And they're always the ones I finish it. I'm like, oh, that's way, that's, I can't put that up in public. That's just too real. That's too, you know, my guard is too down. But of course, that's what everybody wants. You know, a good song is a catharsis for people. Like if you write about your pain, it has to be everyone else's pain as well. That's when, you know, you can write a really depressing song and it's cathartic for people. It makes people actually feel, you know, like I have this, that, you know, like my friends and I, that song makes me cry, like in a good way. It makes me cry, but I cry every time. And
you got a lump in your throat.
Mission accomplished, you know, but they need that cry. Like I listen to songs like that and they make me cry and I feel better after it's all over. So, you know, but those are the kind of songs where you really put it all out there and reveal yourself. And, you know, like I've written a lot of songs, especially early on, I wrote a lot of songs that were clever, you know, you could see how facile I was with lyrics and, you know, wordplay, and I was a really good player and I could play a lot of fancy stuff and they were admirable tunes, but they didn't get to anybody in the way that the songs that I just bared everything did, you know. They were the kind of thing you really liked at the moment when you were singing it, but you didn't necessarily need to hear again, you know. So, and that was a wall that I could hide behind when I didn't really want to show people what I was feeling, because that took bravery and I didn't always have it, you know. Like it's brave to just bare yourself in the song and say, like I have songs about how, you know, how bad of a person I can be, you know, and everybody relates to those songs because they've all been through that, you know. But to say it out loud, you know, it'd be easier to just write a song about, you know, something cool and, you know, use a lot of internal rhymes and everyone's really impressed, but that doesn't really do anything. That doesn't get the people like that song about, you know, how just awful I could be to someone. And you know what I mean?
I do. Yeah. Is it an organic process?
It's just, are you going to open your diary and let everyone read it, or you're not going to open your diary? And
but you made the choice to open the diary, right?
It took a long time to get there, but the response was totally different and immediate, and it just brought in, it made people more engaged. You know, I could tell. And the other thing is live, I can play and I can, you know, put on a really energetic show and rip on the piano and be really impressive in that way. But the songs that people write to me about are always the ballads and the, you know, those kind of songs that once they get home and I'm not there to show off, you know, those are the tunes they keep listening to over and over again.
Yeah. Or they might talk about it on the way home. I loved when he did that one ballad. It made me,
exactly.
Made me feel this was like us or something, like, you know, or exactly. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. I mean, that's when you've succeeded, when other people can relate to it. Like,
but it's really, that is a great point you made, that there's the performing and that's the enjoyable part too. But when you get that feedback, when somebody actually reaches out to you and tells you, you know, you know
which ones are working. I mean, you know which ones are working on stage, but you also know what, you know, the stuff you hear from people about.
Yeah.
You know,
that's one nice thing about the internet. I mean, you know, that they can respond to you in real time, and it's a lot of fun.
I used to get letters, you know, but not nearly as many as when you get
stuff you had to open up and read
social media or whatever.
That is I'm no exception. I enjoyed those ballads too. In fact, the one that really caught me, because it's early in the album, is the Empty Hallways song that you did. That was great.
Oh yeah.
Very simple chords, but very you know, very heartfelt way you played it. And I just wondering if this is this another autobiographical thing, or is just something, or is just this that you were exploring?
It's about my cat. I had a cat for 20
Are you serious?
years.
This is a cat?
Yes.
Lost cat song, or the empty?
But I made it universal, so it wasn't just about my cat. But
okay,
that it was I just really loved this cat.
That is the cool thing about songwriting. You never know. It could have been.
Yeah, if you make
I
it
didn't catch on.
if you make it pet specific, it's in danger of being a novelty song. And I didn't. Well, but I was feeling, you get attached to your, especially when they've been around for that long. Like just the way you get attached to people, and
Great point. Then they would say, "Oh, that's his cat song." Yeah, that's
yeah. Yeah, like people really like that, and they're asking me about it. So now I have to say, I have not really been like, yeah. And by the way, this is about my cat. I just like kind of let it lie because I want it to be whatever people want it to be.
Yeah, I didn't mean for you to blow the lid off.
No, that's okay.
You're great.
You're like the fourth interviewer I've had to.
No, it's one. It really is. It's because you could write it about the table in the room or something like that. And if you dressed it up in a beautiful way, at least
it was really about how, when your pet dies like that, the house, they're just a little creature, but the house feels incredibly empty when they're gone. It's such an awful feeling. It's hard to explain, but there's just all the rooms seem too big. Everything, that's what they bring to your life, and then they're gone, and you keep thinking you've seen them out of the corner of your eye. And anyway, that was what it was really about, and I didn't think too hard about it and labor too hard about it.
The laughter is because it is relatable. I think that we all, because we all know what that's like.
Yeah.
My friends and I, you mentioned that briefly. So that was another one that's now that was another one you made into a single, I guess they call it.
Yeah.
So you released that already. So back in
February.
Yeah,
we released it as a single. There's a nice lyric video.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that was another.
Go check that out. Yes.
It was a lot of. At the time I wrote it, everyone thinks that it was written during the whole coronavirus thing because it really just works for the era we're in now. But it was actually came before all this. I just, I was getting to that, we're in our 50s and, people are dying.
Yeah.
People are getting sick. Things are changing around us. You're feeling mortal, all that sort of stuff that you can't help it, just the passage of time. And I just saw everyone I knew, of a certain age, was really going through this stuff that we weren't going through even 10 years ago, or we might have been starting to, but anyway, it's like, that's what it was about.
Yeah. Well, you were saying that written during the pandemic, it took you a couple years to get this done, right? This album. So writing and putting it together and everything.
It was, we spent probably over, during a 3-year period, we worked on it.
Yeah.
A lot of it just because I was on the road.
None of it was during when the shutdown happened, the lockdown. Yeah.
The Good People single came out in 2019 because I was planning to put the record out in 2020.
Mm-hmm.
And I just never did because of the pandemic. But it was done Empty Hallways was the last song we recorded, and we did it the day they locked down. Like I had a session.
Yeah.
I played it in the studio live like 3 times, and we all and we're like, hey, they just shut down LA, and we all went, and that was the end of it. We all went home. Yeah. And that was the thing that, and then so during the course of the next few months it got mixed, but it was all recorded. Yeah. The last session was that first day of lockdown, which was weird,
Yeah, really
so,
really.
So it was done. Yeah, I was
spooky.
planning to have it out early in 2020, but at that point I didn't. It took longer to get it mixed because everything got complicated. And the cover of Tangled Up in Blue, I wanted to have all these guitar players that I work with play in between each of these breaks. There's like 6 verses or whatever. And there's like a 4-bar little solo break in between each one.
Right.
So I had all these people send them in, from home. And we assembled all that during the pandemic. Like the guy that I have a band in Italy that does all my Europe touring with me. That guitar player sent one over from Italy. The guy I work with in New York sent one over. couple people here, so it was pretty cool. Guy in New Orleans sent one down that I play with. But mostly it was done, it just got mixed. And then by summertime of last year, it was completely finished and ready to go, mixed and mastered. And it just was a bad time to me to put it out. I just didn't want to put it out.
How do you know when to do it? Because nobody's.
Yeah, you really didn't know when to do it, but I just didn't want to do it then. Everything was just weird to me, and so I just decided I was going to wait till the next new year. And then at the beginning of this year, I just got a really burning need to get it out, get the psychic weight of it off my shoulders,
Oh yeah, that's a big thing to do.
So I think it was a good choice. It was just, there was so, I don't know, the holidays were coming up. There was a big election. There was all kinds of stuff that was going on that was not conducive to me or thinking about putting out a record or anybody else caring that I was putting out a record.
Yeah, so everybody's drunk on current events. That how do you know when to? Hey, I got an album here. I would like to put this album out. Would you like to check it out?
Right. So it's really a record from 2019 mostly, but 2020. But a lot of the songs really kind of, I can't tell you how many people think those songs were inspired by what's going on now.
It was worth the wait. I think it was
just me.
Timing is proper, even though you didn't think so at the time.
I was just going through a rough time myself before all this happened, and that's where the songs came from.
Yeah.
And then I think more people were going through the same type of rough time that I was kind of already experiencing once this happened. So
you were talking about the cover of Tangled Up in Blue. You had a couple other covers too. I know. So not everything is written by you, but you put a nice spin on. That's the great thing. Why cover something and make it sound exactly like?
No, I always try to fuck with it.
But you did that old Fleetwood Mac. Not many people remember that song from. From
great song.
What was that album? It was a long time. It was the old school Fleetwood.
The original Fleetwood Mac.
Yeah, the one that did Black Magic Woman and all those other things. Yeah, Oh Well is the song, and you kept true to form. It still sounds like the original, except with your own personality into it. Wow.
I loved that song ever since the first time I heard it, and it's a real guitar song. And for years in the back of my mind, I was like, what if that could be played on the piano? And that seemed like just too weird. And then finally I sat down and tried to just check out. I had to figure out what it was. And then I just played it on the piano, and it worked. It's kind of difficult to play on a piano. It was like learning a classical piece because it's guitar stuff. Guitar is not linear, right? You play guitar, okay? So you know what I'm talking about. Like that lick is kind of in a shape on the guitar where you're just doing this, but on the piano you're like spidering all over the fucking place.
Right.
It's just it's much more. It doesn't lie comfortably on a keyboard, so you have to first be able to play the notes and then make it have feel and be greasy like the guitar version is and all that. So it was a process to switch it over to piano, but I had always wanted to do it. I thought it would be cool if I could do it. So
and that song had like two different types of guitar sounds to it anyway.
Yeah, that's right.
Almost like a duet thing here.
Yeah, so I did the whole thing like I do it with the right hand first and then add the left hand, I actually played it on two different pianos. So there's one piano's doing the right hand and the other piano's doing the low part. So it sounded like two different, like I was just copying the whole two guitars thing, but doing it on two pianos.
And you got your own backup band that went in the studio and did this with you, or?
Yeah. I mean, that one in particular, I cut just by myself because I was just kind of working on it in the studio and I was trying shit and I did it solo. and with my stomp box, which is not here at the moment, but I have the
Oh,
stomp.
that's right. You got the stomp box.
Like when you hear that whole 4 on the floor thing while that song's going on, that's like me stomping on my wooden box with a microphone in it.
That gives it that little oomph that you need.
Yeah, so it's a whole thing. So I did it solo with the stomp box, and that was a pretty cool version. And then we added the band later. It was like Kenny Aronoff played drums on it, and James Lomenzo played bass. They're both in a Fogarty band, and they've both done other lots of big stuff. And so we went over to Kenny's studio and did the rhythm section. They played along with me, basically, my already completed track.
Yeah.
That's how that one came about in particular. But at first I didn't know if I was going to do it or not. So I didn't just go in with the band and cut, because I usually cut my basic tracks live with the band the old fashioned way.
Yeah.
But I wasn't completely convinced that it was going to work. So I was just in there recording it by myself to see if it was even something that was cool, was going to work. So I decided it worked, and then we put the band on. Then I spent the money to go put the band on, right? That's basically what was going on.
Mentioned Fogarty. That's a good segue to Bad Moon Rising. That's the third cover that I saw on there.
Yeah,
and that one's the most unique in that you
really
changed the tempo. You changed the tempo and gave it a bluesier feel. Than
it's like
there you go.
See, bad moon rising. I see the trouble on the way. I see a hurricane from nightmare. I see bad times a day. Yeah, don't go round the night, since you're bound to take your life. There's a bad moon rise.
Yeah, all different chords, all different.
Yeah. Wake up the neighbors with that,
I mean, playing with him every night and him being such a great songwriter and singer, and I'd always wanted to do one of his songs. Like way before I was in this band, I was a fan. So, but playing with him, I'm like, I'm not going to attempt to do anything that's even close to the way he does it. Plus my whole preferred method for doing cover tunes is to kind of rework them and reimagine them. But I always had an idea that, the thing about that song is it's a really happy kind of song. You can dance to. It's got this great hook, but the lyrics are really dark, and you could listen to it for years and not realize how dark the lyrics are. It's like working on two separate levels, and so you might listen to it and then like you reach the second level where you realize there's some serious stuff going on in the lyrics, because, it works without you understanding what's being said,
Yeah. I always thought that was the proper way to do it anyway, because, Fogarty's, the Creedence Clearwater version is it's kind of a happy feeling.
It's like a two-step. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like a two-step. Yeah. Like, hey, we're getting down with the, with the lowdown.
So, and I just thought, what if I did it where the music was as dark as the lyrics? So that was kind of where it came from.
Yeah.
And then I was playing it and I was like, I want to get this Beatlesque power pop minor chord in the middle of the verse. So I don't even think I thought that hard about it. I was like, rising. It was pretty cool. And then one day I was playing it and I made a mistake and I'm like, that's the one.
That's the one. That's the beauty of doing that.
Really, even more different. So anyway, that's how that happened.
No, that's the fun thing about it. Even if you're not writing your own song, you can rework something. And
and great songs like that, you can do lots of stuff with them. They're malleable. You can just turn it into something else. It's still going to work.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's how that came about.
I love beautiful melodies telling me terrible things. That's what I always used to say.
Right. Yeah, that's right. So, and that's what the original is. It's just like you can just remain happy and not dig too deep, or you can dig deep and be like, wow, there's some serious shit here.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. But the reworking is, I'm a big fan of that. My buddy and I, when we were making music, 20 years ago, that's how we like to do covers. It was just got to change it. Don't want to make it the same at all.
Yeah, because really, who wants to hear me do? any one of those songs. Like when somebody, they got like most of those great songs also have great recordings by the artists that did them. So if you're gonna do it, you might as well do something totally different.
Yeah, make it your own, because then you
you
do it like the other guys are expecting it to be.
Right, it has a reason for existing. If it's just kind of a pale version of the original, it doesn't have any reason to be there.
Yeah. In that way, you're like the Joe Cocker of all these guys, because Joe Cocker always did.
He just made those songs his own. Like when he did something, like singers like that who are great interpretive singers, they own the song, they rework it, they make it a whole new thing. And I mean, really great ones can almost just take the same arrangement from the original, but it still ends up being theirs.
Yeah. That was the thing. I guess I had Joe Cocker on my mind because of you do a song toward the end called the River Gives.
Yeah.
And I kept thinking, oh, this would be good. This is a little Joe Cocker style. The way you were singing everything is like, oh yeah, this is a nice, soulful.
It's just kind of
gritty,
gospel-y.
Yeah, gospel. There, yeah.
Rock tune, yeah.
He did. Yeah, Joe Cocker did this song with the Crusaders a while back called "I'm So Glad I'm Standing Here Today." And and I just sort of think of that, the gospel, the piano just rolling along, carrying the floating.
That was like a 10-minute song.
Yeah.
I asked to do a tune for it was when they had the floods. This is the oldest one from the record. It was in 2016. And they had these big floods in West Virginia. And my manager's from West Virginia originally. And he was putting together the PBS like telethon that aired on all the PBS stations to raise money for the flood victims. And he calls me, he's like, can you give me a video? Like he was planning for me to use some pre-existing tune with a video, just could you put something on for the cause, and I got off that phone call and I sat down immediately and just this whole song just came out. And then we had like one more day after I'd written the song to record it and make a video. So I went in with my engineer and my producer who were very good to me. I was like, hey, can you guys like work on this? Can we make a video and a recording and mix it and edit it and master it tomorrow? And they're like, sure, why not? So I went up there and we did the whole thing. I kind of just sang and played it live in the studio, and then we videoed it with like 4 cameras, lit some candles,
Yeah.
Stayed up all night editing and turned it in the morning of the show, and they got it in there. And then it wasn't released or anything. It was just for that show. So like in 2019, I put the band and the singers on it, made it like a full band tune.
Yeah,
and that'll be my next single on the 30th, by the way.
The River Gives is going to be
River Gives with video and everything.
Thanks for the tip. Yeah, good job getting the singers in there. You almost need them. That gives.
Oh, it really elevated
right touch.
It. Yeah, elevated to a whole new thing.
Yeah,
great.
Yeah, you don't want to force it in there, but it seems like it was needed.
No, I mean, I always wanted, like the version that is now existing that's going to be in the record is what I was picturing it being the whole time. We just didn't have time to get a band together and bring, we didn't have time to do it.
Yeah.
We had one day to shoot the video and mix it and everything. And we just like it was just impossible. There was like, so I didn't try, and getting everybody to show up and with on no notice. Anyway,
Yeah.
I just did it solo, and it works solo. Any good song should work solo anyway.
That's a nice thing. That's a nice thing when you're creating something. You almost like even toward the end, you're going like it needs something still. Let's put
but
that
I
in
always
there.
in my head it sounded like what it is now.
Great. Yeah.
Right.
It's almost like, it's like people who paint, I know what I'm going to put down on the canvas, but even I'm surprised when I see it, because it probably came out even better than you thought.
Right.
Yeah, that's really nice. That's really nice that you did that. I sort of listen with half an ear. I'm more aesthetic, and I like to hear how you composed it and how it sounds when you play with the band. It's just I like the feeling that it gives me, and then
I mean that's
then the lyrics come
thing.
later, unless something jumps out at me like that one about the sound of the saxophone is like, oh, I'll listen to that. I followed the sound of the saxophone. It's when you come up with a sentence like that, it's like, oh, you're drawing me in. Let's see what he's got to say.
I was in Central Park in New York, and like a half a mile away or something, somebody was playing the sax, and I literally followed the sound of the. I was like drawn. I gotta find who's playing the saxophone, and I walked towards the sound, and it got louder and louder until I finally found the player. And I just sat down on the park bench and kind of did some of those lyrics. Finished it later.
Well, the album, Bob Malone has put out an album. It's going to be May 21, 2021. It is called Good People. Happens to have a title track called Good People, and it's a good song. And I like that video. Good video with you playing the red piano and that. That on the. Where were you when you did that? We
were on a rooftop in downtown LA. It's this building that. It's like kind of an arts building. The photographers have studios in there, and they rent out the roof. I mean, I was talking to the guy the videographer guy, the director, and he's like, "We got to get you outside, like playing the piano." And I was like, but I don't really picture like greenery and stuff outside. He said, "Wouldn't it be great if we did it on a roof?" And he's like, "Oh, that would be great." And then we're like, "We'll never get a permit." We're like, who's going to let us go on their roof with this piano, And I just Googled rooftop video shoot Los Angeles, and this place came up, and it was not even that expensive. And I called them up, and we booked a date. And then that piano that's my old Yamaha electric Grand, which I bought when I was in college. I had it since '87.
Wow.
And and I use I don't know if you know about these things, but they were like, before digital pianos, if you wanted a piano, you had to take your Grand or your upright or your heavy ass piano out on the road. So these things were built to be like a portable piano. They're still heavy, but I mean, the thing weighs like 200 pounds, and a regular baby Grand weighs about 700 pounds.
Okay.
So compared to a regular piano,
so this is a doable thing. Then you could,
right. And two guys could carry it, and it breaks down into two halves.
Wow!
Like the top, the harp with the strings in it is hinged onto the bottom part, and you take off the top, and that's one half that weighs like 170. But it was still a pain in the ass. You had to get it tuned. It like had very short strings, so when it went out of tune, it was really out of tune. But it was a cool piano. I always wanted one, and I got one. Basically, I bought it the year they stopped making them, and the year that digital pianos first appeared, and just kind of made that thing obsolete. But it was a real piano that I could take to gigs, and I wanted it. So I've always had it. I used it on 100 gigs. It got so destroyed that I just put it in storage for like around the year 2001 or something. I put it in storage for 13 years or whatever. And my dad was like, it was in my dad's garage. And he's like, "I'm moving. You have to get this thing out of here." So we took it out, and I did not want to get rid of it. And it was in pretty bad shape, and brought it to Custom Vintage Keyboards. It's this guy here that works on everyone's vintage gear. Like I play a Hammond B3 and a Wurlitzer piano with John Fogerty, and those are like 50-year-old instruments that, he tools up on after each tour. We'll just kind of keep them in working order. Although those instruments were built to last. Like any keyboard I bought in the 90s had, or up through now, had like a 5-year shelf life, and then it was kind of done.
Yeah.
So that's that piano. Sorry, I get talking about that thing and I can't stop. But so anyway, when
Good for me.
brought it
I
in-
enjoy to hear about it.
Yeah, it was all beat up and it needed a lot of work. And when I brought it in, he's like, "Well, why don't we, because it's covered with Tolex like a guitar amp is, right?"
Right.
So he's like, "Why don't we do a color, instead of black? Let's just because it was black originally. They were all black Tolex, right?" And so yeah, we was like, "Let's make it red." Nobody has one of those. And then I said, "Lots of people don't even know this is real piano. Like they can't see inside." And like, what if we made the lid out of plexiglass? He goes, "Yeah, we can do that." So we made the lid out of plexiglass.
So you customize this thing. That's
So it was a total
incredible.
custom. And then he rebuilt it so that it played like new, and I just made it like a brand new piano, except that it looked way cooler than it did, when it was actually good.
It was already unique looking when I looked at it in the video, but I didn't realize the story. That's
Yeah.
really great that you did that.
Carrie, she can't sleep at night. Tosses and turns till the morning light. The world's ugly, the world's not fair. She can't breathe through the heat in the air. Oh. And it's so hard to see, I know. When you finally run out of hope, but there's good people everywhere. There's good people everywhere. Oh, there's good people everywhere. When it seems like someone's always getting in your face, shooting up the place, making you lose your faith in the human race. Just remember, there's good people everywhere. Harriet, she wants to save the world. She tries hard, but she's just one girl. Now a turn needs to be saved from a world going up in flames. You're feeling lost and afraid, I know. But believe me, you're not alone. 'Cause there's good people everywhere. There's good people everywhere. There's good people everywhere. When it seems like someone's always getting in your face, shooting up the place, making you lose your faith in the human race. Just remember, there's good people everywhere. It'll take you by surprise. In a stranger's eyes, they say it's in short supply, but it's out there. 'Cause there's good people everywhere. There's good people everywhere. There's good people everywhere. When it seems like someone's always getting in your face, shooting up the place, making you lose your faith in the human race. Just remember,
So in this video, we were out, like, there was a freight elevator in this building, and we were able to get it up to like the next to last floor. But then there was this long flight of stairs.
Yeah.
And the cartage guys had to carry it up there, and so we got it up on a roof. But it could have been worse. You know, it could have been all stairs, and then I think nobody would have taken the job.
Did you have to open your wallet for that to get it up there, or is that?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's just a regular cartage job, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't carry it myself anymore.
No,
I'm like, I got this thing fixed up, and I intend to use it, but not if I have to actually carry it myself. Those days are over. My back is bad, specifically because of that piano. When I was, you know, in my 20s and 30s, humping it around to gigs. What was the particular selling point of that rooftop? Did they have a pretty nice view to look at as you're? Well, you got downtown LA is the view. Yeah, so it's not obstructed. You can see things. The selling point was that it was a possibility and that I could afford it, basically. You said it wasn't. But then it turned out to be just really great. Like the view was awesome. It was a very urban view. You know, it was really what I was picturing. And we went up there and we shot that, and then the same day or maybe the day before, we went with me and the background singers. We went down in the subway, and we shot all the rest of the video in the subway, basically. Oh yeah. Which was totally illegal. And the subway really? You're not allowed to do that without a permit or something? You have to get a permit, right? It costs like $10,000 or something like that. Oh my gosh! And so we were riding the subway, and you know, the guy's videoing us, and his assistant is holding the light and watching out for the cop, you know, and like a couple of times the subway police saw us and they start walking towards us, and we just put the light and we just like made like we weren't doing anything. And then we rode from here in Studio City to Union Station. And we got off of Union Station, and we go up into Union Station, and there's an upright piano there in the hall, in the foyer, right? And it's just a great looking building in there. And I'm like, oh, let's get some footage of me playing a piano. Like I played 2 chords, and the cop, the Union Station cop comes. She's like, you can't do that. You can't film in here, you know. Wow. So we went outside and we filmed some stuff just right outside the building. If you look closely, it's all decorated for Christmas because it was like in December or something like that. Anyway, that's what that was. Yeah, it's a tricky thing. You think that everything's a public, it's all for your, it's all your playground, and they won't. Right. Yeah, but on the whole, I got that thing made for not that much money, you know, for what it looks like. It looks pretty expensive. That was cool. It was cool. Now it wasn't really. It did it. Now you won't do it again. But it's nice that you got a nice video. Yeah, we got away with it. Yeah. Now that I've publicly exposed the felonies I committed to make that video, you know, it's coming for me any minute now. Yeah, I wasn't that illegal, but you know, I've had some people kick me out of like where we were doing stuff around, you know, where the Kodak Theater is, and there's some things. There's sort of like an open area, and then there's like like an overhang, and we were trying to do some things there in secret because nobody was around until the security shows up and starts. And all of a sudden they find you. You're like, yeah, it's like they're waiting for you to make a move until he's doing something. They probably he just picked up his guitar. Let's see what's You know, no, it's harder than it looks to just go shoot some stuff. Yeah. You know? Yeah, you have to remember that it's like you're going on somebody else's property. So right. Yeah, it is weird though. Anyway, we got it done with the rooftop thing. That was pretty easy. That's a great story. I appreciate that. Anyway, so this is a great album. Just because I noticed that you were playing all these different clubs. Were you down at Croce's before they closed that place down in San Diego? Were you like a regular guy down there? It was a big formative thing for me. I started playing there like between probably 91 or 2 and 95 or 6. We played Croce's probably twice a month, like for a weekend. And it was a long, like 3-set gig, but I played mostly original tunes, at maybe 60% of my songs and 40% cover tunes. And it was just the hippest audience. Like they were lining up around the block to see us. And it was it was right during the early days of the gas lamp when when it was just cool,
Yeah.
it wasn't like a big college thing yet, and it was just a real musical kind of knowledgeable crowd came to this thing. And
It's still a pretty hip place, but it was different 30 years ago.
It was the top hat. Yeah, it was just different. It was like in 95, I just remember a whole different crowd started showing up, and they were like requesting top 40 and stuff. And like the crowd we were drawing before that would have been appalled by that sort of, like they came to hear us do our thing. Like the kind of stuff I was writing fit right in.
It sounds like you would fit in. That's why I asked about
fit in
that.
Like that was the other thing I learned during those days. I was playing those kind of clubs where you're supposed to play cover tunes, but if you did your stuff, and it had to be good, but if you just did with the conviction that this is my show and this is what we do, they'll accept it. Like no one ever was like, when do you play something we know? They're like, we love this, because I owned them. You know what I mean? Like that was part of the owning process.
That was a regular gig. How long did you? How long was that run?
For probably 4 years.
That's great.
Real steady gig, and they paid me enough to bring. I had a horn, a 9-piece band with a horn section, and we all got rooms, and everyone got paid. It was a glorious gig, and we went down there twice a month, to do a Friday and a Saturday.
So you make that 2.5 hour drive or whatever it would be.
Yeah, man, it was a real highlight of the band loved it. Everybody loved it. It was just a great gig.
Yeah.
And
if there was no traffic, it'd probably only take you about maybe 70 minutes to drive down there. But
I know. Yeah. With traffic, it can be a 4-hour.
I remember San Diego in the 80s and the 90s. It was tough to get down there. It's even worse now, I guess. But
I worked out a lot of my voice as an artist in that place,
That's great.
We just had the opportunity. We had a great crowd to play to, and we had a lot of time to play and experiment, and just they were just really open to us doing what we wanted to do, even though it was and it was a really unique experience. It was hard to find a place like that.
And Croce's is a famous name. Did you ever get to meet either Ingrid or AJ at the time?
Yeah. I met Ingrid, booked me there, so I met.
So I didn't know if she was hands-on in getting you there.
Oh yeah, she was the person running the whole thing.
Yeah.
And I met AJ a couple times. I don't think I ever met AJ there because he was playing. I mean, that club was originally for him to play in, and then he started touring, so he wasn't there anymore. So then other people.
Yeah, well, Ingrid did that as a tribute, I think, to her husband. So it was it was a thing.
But I met him at a festival. I think the first time I met him was like at a blues festival in Nebraska that we were both playing on.
Really?
Like, you used to play your
had to go way out there to meet him, and he was.
He's like, oh, I know you used to play my mom's club. It's a huge picture of you on the wall.
Great guy. I hope to talk to him again because I know he's making some music, and he's another one that did the virtual shows. But he wanted to do what he loves to get out in the crowd and get with his band and do all that.
But the virtual thing I've learned a lot. Like I got a camera switcher and a 3-camera shoot now, and get the sound all through a soundboard. And I've learned all kinds of skills that I did not have before.
Yeah.
To make the thing good. Because at first when I first started doing it, like everybody probably, I was just using what you see right now, right? This little camera on the computer, and it sounded like shit, but nobody cared because it was new, and at least there was some music to listen to live. And
they understand because I have one of these too. You do too.
And so we understand it's bad. And everyone was cool with it. But as I was doing a show every week, sometimes twice a week, and people were listening a lot, no one ever complained. But I was like, I don't really want to present myself like this over and over again, sounding bad and having this. So then I got the sound part together, and it sounded a lot better. And then, so that was cool for a while, but I had this kind of one crappy camera, and nobody complained. But the other thing is all your friends are doing it. And so I had these other friends, they got their sound together before me. I'm like, oh man, that sounds so good. I'm really just embarrassed now. I have to do this. So because I didn't want to deal with it, I didn't want to buy gear. I didn't want to figure out how to make it work. I had to get a new computer because once there was full facility sound coming out of the soundboard, my old computer didn't have enough memory to handle it. It just crashed during a show. So everything led to having to buy a new piece of gear somehow, And then after a while, the one crappy camera thing was not hacking it, so a friend of ours who's the engineer that actually shot my one of, not Good People, but the River Gives video, he came over, we all masked up. He came over and he did like a multi-camera shoot of one of my shows at home. And it was so great. And the audience responded to it so hard, that I was like, there's no going back now. I have to have this.
Now it's better.
So I bought my own rig, and Karen and I kind of sit there and like do the camera switcher while we're singing and playing. It's not quite as good it's not nearly as good as having somebody else do it, but it's still great. We got like one mounted on the keyboard so you can see the hands close up.
That's great.
And, we got a kind of a bass, and then we got the side. And so it's cool. It really adds to it.
Yeah. It gives it more proper experience for the people watching. And
so now I'm all set up to, present myself at least decently. That's not what's happening today. Right now I'm doing a Zoom in front of my regular little,
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sorry that people are having to do that, but it's fun for me because people are a tad more accessible. No,
it's good.
Most of the time I would have to do this on the phone. I enjoy having people so that they can see that.
Oh, I don't mind at all. I just it's hard to do the Zoom thing with the whole like 3-camera setup. It's just a whole different vibe. When you're sitting talking to people, it starts to be, because the shot is for you to be playing and singing and stuff. And it's weird when you're just sitting there. You got to talk into the mic because it's all off the board,
Yeah.
Anyway, this is better for this sort of thing.
Yeah. You turn into your parents sometimes, like that one commercial that you see on TV. It was like, let me see. Where is that again? Is this it? Is this the button? That kind of thing.
The thing was too, like younger people who are doing it had their shit together right away because they all know how to run. They all know how to run Pro Tools, and a lot of people my age know how to run. I kind of know, but I just never liked self-engineering. I was lucky enough that there's always somebody else to do it for me. So, but the people there's friends of mine who got their sound really good before I did. They were like 5 years older than me, and I'm like, oh. Well, shit, I have no excuse. I can't pull the old card,
I know.
I can't pull I'm too old to figure out how to make this gear work, So I just did it. It wasn't that you can't figure it out. It's just that you're used to doing things a certain way for a long time, and it seems impossible to grasp until you just go do it. And you're like, oh, it's not that hard. It's just different.
Well, listen, I don't want to keep you on forever, but it's really
I have been
great.
rambling for quite a while.
You're cool to do it. I hardly edit this thing, so this should be about maybe 3 hours long. So
I'm kidding. If it's overly long, I'm sure there's some stuff you can cut.
No, but it's been enjoyable, and I appreciate that you had the piano in front of you. That made it even more personal. Do you think at the end, before we go, do you think you can give us a little taste of Prelude and Blues? Because that's a nice little deal.
Yeah,
it's an instrumental that kind of a happy blues thing.
Oh yeah. I'll do a truncated version of the slow part.
I appreciate it.
more impressive when you can see it happening. All you can see were me making piano faces.
That's good for me. But man, you pound those keys like they owe you money. I'm telling you, those are great. And the oops, don't worry about the oops, because you know what? Your oops is a lot better than some people's best product.
That's right. People love it when you make mistakes. They can see you working.
Yeah.
Somehow you sound better to them if there's a couple of clams, you know. Yeah. If it's too perfect, they're like, he's faking it. Yeah.
Well, listen, Bob, thank you. Let me quickly reiterate. Bob Malone, he's got an album, May 21, 2021, and it is called Good People. Title track, Good People, and another track, The River Gives. And what's the other one? What's the other single that was off of that I missed?
We put out Tangled Up in Blue is out now.
Okay.
And Friends and I was out before.
Friends and I. There you go. That's
a single
one.
A month.
Yeah.
You know, to keep people interested, basically.
I'm interested, and I think everybody else would be. It's a great feeling. If you like this kind of music, if you like what he's been playing here on the piano, you're in for a treat. And when this is all over, I'm gonna be buying tickets to see one of your shows. Hopefully, you'll be around here somewhere. But you know, right. When you hit the road, I may miss you because you'll be all over the place. But let's hope that happens soon.
Oh yeah, I'll be. You know, I know that I'm playing the Grand Annex, which is this little theater down in like San Pedro in October. That's pretty easily accessible to Orange County. I don't know how far down you are, but
yeah, Anaheim, sure.
Yeah, it's Orange County adjacent, kind of. Yeah, you can go there from Anaheim. It'd take you like 45 minutes.
Sounds great.
Anyway,
thanks a lot. Big applause for you, Bob.
Thank you.
And God bless you. You take care of yourself, and hopefully we can talk another time down the road. Have a great day today.
Yeah, you too.
All right, have a good one. Bye-bye.